Russians being Russians, they can never be trusted. There was a very clear algorithm agreed in Istanbul. There were certain sequence of actions that had to be undertaken by each side for these exchanges to happen. For example, step one, and this was mutually agreed, step one was the exchange of those prisoners of war who are either severely ill or severely wounded. But we have sent to the Russians our lists, and they have not responded.
Now let's speak with Yuriy Sak, who's the advisor to the Minister of Strategic Industries of Ukraine. Yuri, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Alexis.
What can you tell us about the latest attacks on Kharkiv?
The latest attacks are just the continuation of what has been happening, pretty much since the beginning of the large-scale invasion. But of course, now we're seeing that Russians are using more firepower, and partly because they can produce still more drones, more bombs, because their war machinery is enabled by the weak sanctions regime. They are finding loopholes, and their defense industry is, according to some estimates, is producing 3 times more weapons as all of the European countries taken together. So the more successful, in inverted commas, they are in terms of producing weapons, the more of those weapons, of course, will be launched at Ukrainian cities. And Kharkiv, Lutsk, Dnipro, Kherson today. So it's not just one part of Ukraine, it's across the whole of the country we're experiencing these attacks. And we are bracing ourselves tonight for another massive combined strike. Ukrainian citizens have been warned, don't ignore the air raid sirens. Make sure you have a plan for tonight. So the moment you hear the siren ring out, go to bomb shelter, because we're looking to have another massive missile and drone attack.
Well, 4 people were killed and 60 were injured in that latest attack in Kharkiv. Yuri, what about stopping the drones? We saw the effective, the Spider operation, how effective that had been, Ukraine attacking those bomber planes in Russian territory. How are Ukraine doing in stopping Russian drones from entering its territory? How is the operation with jamming those drones and being able to stop the communication between the operators and the drones?
Well, indeed, it is always more efficient to destroy the archer rather than to defend yourself from the arrows. But so, for example, today there was talk between the members of the Ukrainian parliament about the need to actually introduce mobile operators blackouts for the time when the attacks are ongoing. And of course, these are initiatives that we understand will probably help disorient and deal with the drones, the number of which is actually growing, because, if a year ago a massive drone attack would count 100+ drones, nowadays a regular amount of drones they launch is more than 300 a night. So, people are in 2 minds about these measures, because on the one hand, everybody wants to be protected from drones, but then if you switch off the mobile connection, people will be left without ability to, be in touch with each other, to, for example, call out emergency services if a drone hits, or a debris from a drone that has been shot down hits their home. So it's very difficult. It's difficult.
Yuri, what do we know about the latest peace talks, the ceasefire talks? We know that there was a failure to agree a ceasefire, but there was a commitment to prisoner swap. What's the latest on that?
Well, indeed, because Russians are not willing to negotiate in good faith in terms of the ceasefire, they refuse to accept an unconditional ceasefire, the one that is supported not just by Ukraine, but by other European countries, by our US partners. So Russians have turned this peace talks into a platform dedicated almost exclusively to prisoner exchange. And of course, for us, it is very important to at least have that opportunity, because we value the life of our soldiers, and we want to bring back those who are still alive. And, our families of those heroes that have been killed, the repatriation of bodies has been agreed. But Russians being Russians, they can never be trusted. There was a very clear algorithm agreed in Istanbul. There were certain sequence of actions that had to be undertaken by each side for these exchanges to happen. For example, step one, and this was mutually agreed, step one was the exchange of those prisoners of war who are either severely ill or severely wounded. But we have sent to the Russians our lists, and they have not responded. Instead, they unilaterally decided to bring back, they say 1,000 bodies to the border with Ukraine. And our president said it very clearly, let's do it step by step. Moreover, we must be sure that, the bodies of people who are in those refrigerators are the bodies of the Ukrainian soldiers, because in the past, unfortunately, we have seen that sometimes Russians are trying to kind of get rid of their own soldiers they don't need in this way. But of course, Russians are manipulating this very sensitive topic because these are all lives of, families of these people, and they're turning it into a media spectacle. They've called, press, Russian-friendly propaganda press to the site where these refrigerators are, and this is just, again, Russia being Russia, this is bad taste, this is immoral, and we hope there will be some international pressure for them to stop these actions.
Поэтому, хлопцы, все в ваших руках. Что, в окно, Владимир? Сейчас еще не отпустили. А предварительно где он? Я сейчас скажу. Это какой получается? Компания.
Я здесь была, дочка моя была в той комнате. Я не слышала взрыва. Просто какой-то трошки был щелчок и все. Я открыла дверь и там сумма. Ее вынесли на носилках.
В каком состоянии?
Пока вроде бы руки ноги целые.